Welcome to the latest episode of The Independent. Pete Sampson, joined as always by my co-host Matt Fortuna. Today on the show, we call him the ACC Commissioner, David Teel. That's actually Jim Phillips, who also should come on the show at some point. But until then, David Teal, very veteran reporter covering all things ACC. So we talked less Boston College, more about like, is this going pretty well? Like, is this all still working for everybody? And what the future may hold for the ACC, including this hiring cycle, because that's a league that could add or subtract some pretty big name coaches. But and then we'll talk a little bit of Boston College too, but only a little bit, Matt. I don't think there's a huge appetite for. Well, they've lost 6 in a row, I think.
They are 7 in a row. They're 1-0 against Catholic schools this year. However, they beat Fordham in the opener.
Okay, I mean, good for beating Fordham. But yeah, when you're losing in overtime to Michigan State, losing at Stanford, somehow losing by 41 points to Pittsburgh. I mean, heck, losing to Clemson is kind of embarrassing at this point. It's not been a good year for Boston College in any way.
You didn't even mention the UConn loss, which is like probably the actual biggest loss they've had this year as far as games they maybe could have won. Very disappointing. And I know it's BC, and I know the margins are thin, and we always make the joke, whoever's coaching there is going to go 6-6 or 7-5. It's just baked into like the BC culture there. I thought Jeff Hathley did a pretty good job and was very smart to get out while he did. But I really thought when they got Bill O'Brien, that was like, by BC standards, a home run hire. Like, you can't do much better than that as far as resume, rep, local ties, etc. And I don't know what's not working there. It's a hard job. That's a job that's made harder, I think, in this era. But yeah, it's been pretty bad this year. It's been really bad. I will say in some ways, when Thomas Castellanos went and beat Alabama in week 1 at Florida State, I'm thinking, wow, like how badly did BC drop the ball with this guy? Now, Florida State hasn't exactly lit the world on fire since, but it's not been going good. I will say, though, do you think there might be an honorary captain for this one? A Boston native with Notre Dame ties who now has some free time on his hands this weekend?
I don't know. Maybe he'd be angling for the job if it opens.
Actually, yeah.
Brian's like, I'm out of here.
You joke. That actually might be the perfect job for him right now.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I think it's much more interesting what had happened with Notre Dame's previous coach than its future opponent. Although this is the week you've been teasing it all season that they faced Turbo Richard.
Oh, that's right. What is he good, by the way? I've only seen him on memes.
I mean, he's averaging 5 yards a carry.
Okay.
Which I feel like at Boston College is actually pretty good.
Their offense is not bad. Their defense is like borderline worse in the country. It's the worst.
Yeah, I mean, quarterback change went from Dylan Lonergan, Alabama transfer, to Grayson James, who I think was a transfer from somewhere else. But yeah, they're not good. They get smoked on defense regularly. Very difficult to see them not getting absolutely torched by Notre Dame. I think the weather's supposed to be pretty good too, so we won't even have that going for us if you're Boston College.
Capacity is 44,500. Me and you were looking right before we went live to see if this would be the smallest venue Freeman's coaching. Actually, Duke is smaller, although Duke had game day when he was there. So I just imagine
that was a great atmosphere.
I imagine there'd be more butts in those seats than there were for this one. Although people, and there are a lot of Irish Catholics in the Boston, New England area. And
I was talking to a friend of mine, who Notre Dame alum, who's half relocated to Boston area, but like, it sounds like this was actually a hard ticket to get.
I would think so.
I mean, it surprised me a little bit just because I was like, do Boston College fans still care about this game because their team is so bad? Or maybe there's just a lot of Notre Dame fans. It's just, like you said, it's a small venue. So supply is way down, even if demand is like not red hot.
No, I don't know. I remember watching this game. It was during Notre Dame's last bye week, the end of BC Michigan State back in week 2. Michigan State wins that one, and I think multiple overtimes. But that was one of those games where if you look at Bill Connolly's post-game win expectancy, BC absolutely should have won. And it's interesting, right? Because Michigan State has kind of been in a tailspin ever since then, and Jonathan Smith's most likely getting fired. But I just wonder if you're a school like BC, because they lost another close one right after that, I think, to Cal. The margins are just so thin that it just snowballs so quickly and so easily when things don't go your way. And look, they almost were up at halftime against Louisville last week, which is about as nice a thing as I can say about BC for the last month or so. But I just, if anything, that just gets Notre Dame's attention more, right? It's like, all right, don't sleep on them. This we talked with David Teal. We could talk more if you'd like about the potential landmines of these last 5 weeks, but I don't think
This ain't
BC
one of them.
or Syracuse will be one of them. They close BC at Syracuse last game of the year. Someone's got to win.
Yeah. I think the most interesting thing about this game for Notre Dame may be like, is there anybody on defense that could help us next year? Like this is a
BC's defense?
Maybe there's one player. Like if they have
worst
a
defense in the
tackle,
ACC,
if there's a defensive tackle that like might be okay, just keep an eye on it. But I don't know if that is the case. But yeah, that's it. I mean, that's kind of the only thing that's interesting about this game from a Notre Dame point of view. But I think perhaps a more interesting college football story of this week beyond Notre Dame Boston College is home run hires that go wrong, which perhaps is a segue into one of our newest sponsors, Home Run and Pizza. As we've said many times before, you got kids, you got youth sports. These two things make dinner time pretty difficult to pull together. Home Run and Pizza has been a lifesaver in my house. Youth basketball, volleyball, hoop season just starting, I think, today for one of my kids. So we got that happening. Home Run and Pizza, a friend of my freezer, a friend of the pod.
Actually happened to me last Saturday during the bye week while at home all by myself. A long day of college football watching where I literally forgot to eat because I was so busy watching every game and covering them a little bit too, and housed the entire Home Run Pizza all by myself at night. You could grab it out of the freezer and in no time catch up on what you should have been eating during halftime. Fun fact, Home Run In is the original tavern-style pizza, the OG of cutting pizza into squares, real Chicago tavern style. Thank you to our friends at Home Run In Pizza. That was a very nice segue you had there, Pete.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm professional.
Who else has time to sit around and watch games on Saturday and eat Home Run and Pizza?
I don't think he's going to watch any football on Saturday. Pizza, maybe. We'll see.
I wonder, is he going to do... I'm not surprised given who we're talking about here, but James Franklin, I thought the minute he got fired was going to want to coach the next year. And sure enough, he goes on game day with Jimmy Sexton and Nick Saban and pleads his case days later. Is Brian going to do that? No. I mean, if he wants to coach again, he should.
Yeah, but I don't think he does.
You don't think he does?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting discussion to have about like what's next for Brian Kelly. I would say the golf course is next. I think that he's done.
He's already doing that.
Yeah, maybe that's true. I guess if you can do both, you should keep doing both and getting paid for the football.
He did both at Notre Dame. He had the best job in the world at Notre Dame.
I joked with a friend of mine who's a Michigan State fan, like, just wait. Brian Kelly will be the next head coach at Michigan State because it's close to Diamond Lake and Lost Dunes Country Club. And like that, I don't know. I've said this before. There are certain coaches that if you said, hey, you know what, we have budget cuts, we need you to coach for free. Like if you'd said that to Jim Harbaugh, I don't think he'd like be thrilled about it. But like,
no, he literally did that.
I freaking love football. Like he took a huge pay cut.
Harbaugh literally did that during COVID. Didn't he give his salary to like other people in the athletic department?
Like there are coaches that just love coaching football. I think Brian Kelly is one of those coaches where it's like, yeah, we got to make some budget cuts. Be like, you know what? I'm out. I don't need to do this. I just don't think he has the desire, the maniacal desire it takes to be good as a college football coach today is different than it was 10 years ago. And I don't think he has that desire anymore.
I could go either way with that one. I don't think he ever had the maniacal desire to be a successful football coach in the SEC, which is why I never thought that hire made sense. And like anything in life, it catches up to you when it catches up to you. Everything he did at LSU was everything he did at Notre Dame. No one seemed to really care at Notre Dame or look the other way because they were winning 10 games a year. And Notre Dame's biggest program there is out there. When the SEC, it really does just mean more. Notre Dame does not have the governor getting on the phone with Jack Swarbrick talking about the future of the football coach.
You mean the Pope?
Yeah, exactly. The Pope should be the honorary captain for this game. And they should play it in Chicago, his hometown. The maniacal part of it, it's interesting because, like, when I hear maniacal, I think like Urban Meyer or some just like royal hard ass. But I don't think Urban can coach now because Urban was good. Urban was good as a bully. And we saw what happened when he went to the NFL. You can't act that way. And college right now is very much like the NFL. The players have power. They have rights. They don't need to take your crap. And if they decide they want to pack their bags and leave, they're free to do that. And that's fine. Brian's like a hybrid, right? Like, we make fun of the purple face tirades, but he's not like an obsessive recruiting guy, round the clock. I thought he would adapt better to the NIL world because in some ways, like, you do give up some of that power and control. And again, like, me and you said this a gazillion times, and we got killed for it at Notre Dame until they were like, yeah, you were right. We're going to hire Marcus Freeman instead. But we're like, the guy figured something out in life that is enviable. Like, he did not work particularly hard when he was out of the office. He made a lot of money. He golfed a lot. He, went to the lake. He somehow figured out how to win 10 games a year on autopilot without ever really picking up the phone to recruit. And it was like, other coaches liked working for him because he was not an overbearing boss. And that part of it, I'm just like, I don't know how he figured this out in a profession where the burnout rate is incredibly high, but he did. And he went to the SEC and tried the exact same thing. And again, to his credit, he had an athletic director in Scott Woodward and a general manager in Austin Thomas who wanted pretty much full control of that program. And Brian, I think, was more than happy to be like, yeah, I got a $95 million guaranteed salary. That's fine. Do whatever you want. Like, and that's ultimately how it fell apart as far as, he butted heads with Scott Woodward and was very much like, yeah, like, what are you going to do? Fire me? Okay, that's fine. Like,
that's what I thought.
I've got a lot of money.
Yeah. I figured that's how his meeting went. It was like the meme of like the news report where we're like, what are you going to do? Stab me? Quote, man who was just stabbed. Like, that's kind of what happened to him. But I think he's, as much as I think his probably ego took a hit on it, I don't think it took a hit enough where he's just like, I'm going to get back and show you guys.
So that's where, I don't know.
Like you are like, I have a few contacts who have some opinions on this. You're way more plugged in on it than I am.
I don't know. I could see it going either way. It's interesting, right? Like him, the political nature down there, and like everything you ever heard about Scott Woodward was he's a political animal. And then when Brian Kelly got there, you're like, of course, he hired a politician. And look at this, they're best friends. And from what I was told till recently, like he did get along with the people he needed to get along with there. From my understanding, he was really tight with Kim Mulkey. No one's tight with Kim Mulkey on planet Earth. Brian Kelly apparently was really close with her, which is a hilarious like buddy comedy that needs to be made if that's the case. As recently as Saturday night before kickoff, he was telling people, I love it here. My family loves it here. I think he genuinely like enjoyed being the head coach of LSU. He thought he could get away with not doing a lot of the things that are expected of the head coach of LSU. And once he lost to Vanderbilt, that's when the people in charge were like, wait a minute, like, why aren't you in town more often? Why are you on the golf course so much? Why are you not recruiting the way Ed Odrad and your predecessors here recruited? It's a complicated situation. It's a complicated place. The governor ultimately gets involved. There was no school president, which I thought might have saved him as far as at least till the end of the year. Because when they lost A&M, I'm like, all right, he's not. I don't think he'll be back next year, but they need to figure out how they're going to structure this. The governor gets involved. I think the minute the new president gets in, who will probably be the McNeese state president, they've got 5 finalists now. I would not be surprised if they fired Scott Woodward and started from scratch with their head coaching search. But like the governor, within hours of firing Brian Kelly, is tweeting a selfie video on campus of let's build a statue for Charlie Kirk on LSU's campus. And LSU fans are like, how about Joe Burrow first, since he's an LSU guy? Like there's never a dull moment in that state. And I know a lot of those, it's not just South. Rutgers in particular is one that comes to mind. There are a lot of big public schools that are ridiculously entwined with their state government, and LSU, perhaps more than most, is fits that bill. But in some ways too, it's like, any famous people you see on TV or any politicians, they get along great during election season, and money and egos get in the way. And it's like, wait, you mean to tell me they're not best friends and they're going to have a breakup and it's going to get public and ugly and nasty? And that's ultimately what happened with Brian Kelly. Yeah, you mentioned this off air to me, and I didn't even think of it. You're like, he went 34-14. Like Marcus Freeman's 38-12, like with a much easier schedule. Like it's not like, oh my God, he sucked. Like he did not come close to winning a national championship, which is the standard there. And he didn't make the playoff, which wasn't hard to not do in a 12-team era when you've got the resources LSU did. Like it was a failure by LSU standards, and they're moving on. What's next for him? I don't know. I'm with you. Like I always thought Notre Dame, and he told me this point blank on the record, like, hey, like, I don't think you're just going to like croak over in your coaching seat, right? Like you've got other life.
Oh yeah.
Like you're not Bill Belichick. Like you've got other life things. And he's like, yeah, no, you're right. But I don't know, for a guy who, like, you can't undo the last 4 years, but if he retired, instead of leaving for LSU, he retired at the end of 21. I mean, Notre Dame wouldn't be sad about it, but I think 4 or 5 years, 10 years removed, a lot of people would come to appreciate Brian Kelly. He'd be a surefire college football Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, great career. Like 13 years of Grand Valley State, rebuilt Central Michigan, rebuilt Cincinnati, which turned into a power, kind of like evergreen power because of you. And then you showed that Notre Dame can get back to, at the very least, national relevance, if not win it all. So I just wonder, and that was also why I was surprised, not that he left for Notre Dame so much as the way he left and where he left for. That was like a pissing on my own legacy move. Like, you got to win a title now, otherwise it's all gone. And so, again, I don't think he cares about that the way most coaches do. But I do think there's part of him that's like, I just won pretty big at Notre Dame. I just was in the meat grinder of the SEC. I know what I'm doing. Like, maybe I can go to a Michigan State or a Boston College and just like coach ball and stack together a few decent seasons to kind of like feel good about myself and earn myself back. He turned, but birthday, Saturday, the A&M game was his birthday.
Wow.
Turned, 60, turned 64, which is old, but it's like Kirk Cinetti's 64 and he's like the best coach in the country right now. So
yeah.
And they similar paths, like both had to wait a long time to get their breaks. Kirk a lot longer than Brian did, but both grinded away at the lower levels for a long time and won big. So I don't know. Like, if he retired and just drank tequila and golfed all day, I would not be surprised. More power to him. He's got a lot of money coming his way. But these guys all have at least a little bit of ego. And this coaching market, there are going to be a lot more good jobs than there are good coaches.
That's an interesting point.
I just have to think. And again, you can't just take a job to take a job if you're Brian Kelly, but I just like James Franklin, whether he's going to do it or not, like went right out there and with every fiber of his being on game day was like, I want to win a national championship still. And I think he truly is committed to doing that and wants to do it. Will he do it? Probably not. But like, you've got to at least think that way when you go into these jobs. I don't know if Brian's wired like that right now.
Yeah, I don't think that he is. And you're right. It's like if he had just retired from Notre Dame in 2021, I think that certainly the Notre Dame fan base would have been a lot more appreciative than it turned out to be.
Well, think about like not just retire, but like, hey, I'm going to retire and put the whistle on Marcus Freeman's neck the way Urban Meyer did Ryan Day and Bob Stoops did Lincoln Riley. Like, those guys are legends in part because of the way they exited and the succession plan they laid out. And it kind of worked out that way, but not the way Brian, Scott Woodward thought he was getting Tommy Rees and Marcus Freeman when he hired Brian Kelly.
And Matt Bayless, if I'm not mistaken.
Possibly. Which might have ultimately been the biggest undoing of Brian Kelly, is like pissing off Tommy Moffitt, who's royalty down south. But I don't know if I've told this story on this pod before, but when Brian was allowed to speak to Notre Dame, his farewell or whatever after he'd already left, on his way out, he said something to the effect of some people of like, and I got to grab Marcus and Tommy. Like they're coming with me. And people in that building are like, excuse us? They are employees of the University of Notre Dame right now. You do not need to talk to them right now. Like, we think we're going to keep them.
Yep. Sometimes you get locked out of your own building for...
That happened Sunday by mistake, but his finger ID did not work. John Talty at CBS, who I want to punch right now. I love John, but I have a story coming out tomorrow that had that anecdote in there, and he beat me to it. But yeah, it was like the Hard Knock scene of like, oh shoot, I got cut.
Yeah,
like when you get locked out.
Yeah, it's you're right though. I didn't even think about it in terms of like the Stoops to Riley, like that kind of plan. Because like, I mean, Notre Dame's, whether they've worked or not, you can have a debate about, but like Notre Dame's actually been pretty good at that kind of thing. You know, Swarbrick to Bavacqua, McGraw to Ivy. Like they do that well. And this would have been one of
Holtz the Navy.
Not one of those times. Yeah. Yeah, Davy to Willingham, definitely not one of those times. But yeah, it just they can. That would have been just such a layup for BK that he ended up not taking. And like, I get it. And this, like, I wrote this in my column yesterday on The Athletic. Like, people need to remember Notre Dame was prepared to match LSU's offer in annual salary. They were like, you're freaking crazy down there for the length of the contract. We're not doing that. Because like you referenced, Brian Kelly has said many times, like, you know, I got 4 or 5 more years to coach. And if that's true, why the heck are you offering him a 9 or a 10-year?
Because it's Scott Woodward who also gave the Jimbo Fisher buyout at Texas A&M.
Yeah, that made absolutely no sense on LSU's part. Like, I think they blew so many stop signs in hiring him, like probably drove past a bridge out sign. Like, it was just they just didn't do their homework on this one. And it came to I thought it would go better than it went for Brian Kelly down there, but it wouldn't. But he would ultimately get fired. I just didn't think he would get fired as quickly.
It went kind of how I thought it would go. Now, look, he beats Alabama and wins the SEC West in year one. I'm thinking, oh, shoot. Like,
yeah,
is he going to do this? Because you do have the toys down there to do it. And I thought your column, I think ran yesterday on The Athletic, was really good as far as like, and I wrote when I was at The Athletic, when he got hired there, like, it's a very easy pass or fail grade for Brian with the way he's talking right now. You win a national championship, everything you wanted is validated. If you don't, it's not. And he didn't. And it turns out Notre Dame wasn't the problem. Now, he had a different boss than Marcus Freeman has right now. And how that dynamic shakes out, I don't know. But it was like, I think you said sigh of relief. And it's like, all right, like, we still got to do our stuff at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But like, it's not like you lose a coach, it's bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even if you don't like him, like, that is like a public, like, black mark of like, he didn't think he could win at Notre Dame and he won everywhere. Like, what are you going to do about Notre Dame? And Brian turned out he couldn't win at LSU. So, yeah, I mean, it went kind of how I thought it would, just as far as his lifestyle and the recruiting. I just think that stuff eventually catches up to you. And again, more on a human level, more power to him. I think he's the envy of a lot of his peers in that regard. But you can't operate down there that way. You just can't. It eventually catches up to you, and you know, that's that. I mean, you think about like this season for LSU, like that win at Clemson seems so big at the time, and Clemson ends up being terrible. But I didn't think they'd be this bad this year at LSU. I was not on the LSU gravy train coming into the year. I thought you were the worst rushing team in the SEC, and you just lost top 3 pick at left tackle, and you have the same OC you had last year. Like, where are you going to magically learn to run the ball better? And that, once again, was part of their undoing. So, yeah, I mean, I got a text Sunday morning saying Kelly's fired, or Sloan's getting fired, and Kelly's going to pick up the play calls. And I'm like, running that by some people I know in the building, and they're like, Sloan's still here, but Frank Wilson's got a pep in his step, and Frank Wilson might know he's going to be the interim head coach here. And I'm like, yeah, that's who I think would be it too. This get very interesting. And it might still get interesting as far as how they drag this thing out buyout wise, because they can fight dirty down there if need be. And I'm sure Brian can too.
I think that they probably will. And look, I appreciated Marcus Freeman pulling out a bit of a Godfather reference this week during his press conference. On the profession we've chosen on the same week where Notre Dame plays Fredo, another Godfather reference in Boston College. So I thought that was really culturally aware on the head coach's part.
And remember, I mistakenly attributed the Godfather to Brian Kelly when I meant Fairy Godmother.
Yeah, Fairy Godmother.
Godfather, Fairy Godmother, tomato.
Yeah, 6 of one, half dozen of another. All right. Well, on that note, we will get into our conversation with David Teal. But before we do that, thanks to our friends at Roback, RHOBACK.com. Use promo code Irish for 20% off your first order. They have some new officially licensed Notre Dame gear on there. Or, hey, if you want to support your second favorite team, Vanderbilt, they got an officially licensed Vanderbilt collection as well. So polos, hoodies, quarter zips, shorts, joggers, tees, basically everything you need in your athletic lifestyle collection. Go to roback.com, RHOBACK.com, promo code Irish for 20% off your first order.
Thanks to our friends at Obvious Shirts, obviousshirts.com, OBVIOUSSHIRTS.com. Friend of the pod, great pod merchandise, quarter zips, hoodies, t-shirts, crew necks, and much more. Some great sayings. We still got domes on domers. We've still got Southern Cal is afraid to play us because until we get ink on that contract, Southern Cal still is afraid to play us, play Notre Dame. You can get merch like that and much more at our friends at Obvious Shirts, at obviousshirts.com. And one more we'd like to thank our friends at DraftKings. The rivalries, the marching bands, the upsets, Saturdays just got way more fun. College football is back. You think you know the game? Put your knowledge to the test with DraftKings Sportsbook and turn your picks into big payouts. With live betting, rivalry week odds boosts, and more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to own every Saturday. You can bet on Notre Dame's game this Saturday at Boston College. That spread is currently at 28.5 points. And here's something special for first timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code INDEPENDENT. That's code INDEPENDENT for new customers. Get $300 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. And with that, let's bring in our friend David Teal. We're now pleased to be joined by David Teal of the Virginia-Pilot and the Daily Press. Commissioner Teal, given his expertise in all things ACC. And with Notre Dame playing 4 of its final 5 games against ACC opponents, we thought who better to bring in and talk about this home stretch for the Irish. David, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Hi, guys. Pleasure to be with you.
I feel like every time we talk about Notre Dame and the ACC, we always lately have been stepping back big picture. What's the status of the relationship? When are we going to get future schedules?
Right.
You know this league better than anybody. What can you share about where things stand, how the Clemson series maybe throws a wrench into some of the longer term plans, and what's going to happen with SMU, Stanford, Cal, and the future of Notre Dame schedules at the ACC?
Yeah, I wanted to pick your all's brain too. I do know, Matt, that last week at the ACC fall meetings in Charlotte, football scheduling overall was a primary topic. The league has just shifted to a 9-game league schedule starting next season partially, and then in 27 all in. So that getting that rotation set is a priority. And then there is the Notre Dame piece of it. And a lot of athletic directors I have talked to are very anxious to hear, am I going to lose some games against Notre Dame that are on the books because of SMU, Cal, and maybe Stanford. Where does that series stand? Because now that the ACC is distributing its media revenue based largely on football television ratings, those games against Notre Dame are very valuable.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me because like the Clemson series sort of like trumps the, I think, collegial nature of the ACC as it gets into like those media rights, like locking in the revenue that comes with the viewership of playing Notre Dame is, better than what you're going to get from basically any other series. So, I mean, and I think Notre Dame's been at this a while where like the novelty of Notre Dame coming to Wake Forest or Raleigh, isn't kind of maybe what it was to begin with. Are these athletic directors still like, we need Notre Dame, or are like, if we get it, it'd be great, but it's not the end of the world if we don't?
I think, Pete, the need now is more than ever because of the ratings. Now, Boston College and Wake Forest, maybe not as much. Maybe they would prefer another Power 4 opponent, more manageable to try to get to bowl eligibility. But another factor here is, and I talked to Graham Neff at Clemson a little bit about this before the LSU game back in August, and he remarked that among the reasons, and there are many, that Clemson wanted to lock in the Notre Dame series is because the Tigers anticipated that the ACC would move to 9 conference games over their objections, by the way, and was going to require that everyone play 10 P4 games. Well, with all the P4 conferences now at 10, getting those non-conference contests on the books is going to be very difficult because you've already seen it. SEC schools, now that they're going to 9, are starting to drop contracted games against ACC and other Power 4 opponents. So now Clemson, with its annual game against South Carolina and an annual game against Notre Dame, is set. And Graham Neff's life becomes much easier.
Do you think any of those might be in jeopardy as far as the future of Notre Dame Clemson, just with playing that 9-game conference schedule, 2 power conference opponents every single year? Or is Clemson kind of like you said, like, you know what, we're in cruise control right now with scheduling?
I think a little bit of both. I think they are in cruise control, Matt. And let's remember that with, and not to dive too much into the weeds with math, but with an odd number of teams at 17, you can't play an odd number of conference games and have it work. So each year moving forward, there will be one ACC team that will not play 9. It will only play 8. And my guess is more years than not, that team will be a Clemson or a Florida State that has that annual SEC game at the end of the season and maybe another non-conference series, i.e. Clemson Notre Dame, that it wants to play.
I was just like take a step back on the ACC, or maybe just like this football season in particular, because sort of the sentiment around the league about how this football season has gone. It starts with Miami looking like a legit national title contender. Mm-hmm. Then Louisville happens, and now it's like, well, wait a minute. They might not even make the ACC championship game, but that may guarantee the league gets 2, if not 3 teams into the playoff. Like how does the ACC sort of see the way this season has unfolded?
Well, I think there was great disappointment in the non-conference performance, Pete. I mean, Miami's opening victory over Notre Dame was among the few bright spots for the league. I forget the exact number, but it's around 5-12 versus its Power 4 peers, and it's going to get worse here in the next few weeks as the Irish plow through the likes of Boston College and Stanford. Pitt maybe not so much, but disappointment on that front. But you make a great point about Miami. If Georgia Tech and Virginia, both of which have very manageable schedules down the stretch, can manage to run the table, they would go into the ACC championship game at 8-0 in the league, and Miami would be left out. But Miami, if it were 11-1, would almost certainly receive an at-large bid based on not only the Notre Dame victory, but Florida and South Florida.
Mm-hmm. When you were talking previously about the imbalanced schedules, I kept thinking, boy, don't you remember when everyone said keep Notre Dame out because they don't play a 13th game? Can you imagine the ACC race when there's a team in the mix that played one fewer conference games than everybody else, and the funny math that everyone's going to have to come up with? I mean, you've covered this league a long time. Jim Phillips is probably as well liked and respected a guy as there is in college sports. Probably should have been the Big Ten commissioner and say he's the ACC commissioner. How would you evaluate the job he's done? Because he didn't exactly have the easiest deck of cards to play with when he first got there.
Matt, he had a terrible deck of cards. I mean, he comes in the back half of a pandemic, the first ACC men's basketball tournament that he presided over. Limited attendance, people in masks, teams having to bow out of the tournament because of positive COVID tests. And then at his first ACC football kickoff, literally after being in the same room with Greg Sankey the night before in a farewell party to John Swofford, news breaks at Texas and Oklahoma.
We were, I was at the Athletic then. It was me, I think it was Grace Rayner and Manny Navarro. The three of us were meeting with Jim Phillips, and we all put our phones away because we're alone with them. And we get out, and whoever was up next for interviews goes in, and we all look at our phones, and we're like, can we get back in there? We need to come. None of us believed it. I think it was the Houston Chronicle that reported that Texas and Oklahoma were going to the SEC, but we were just like, oh my God, like everything we just talked about is irrelevant right now.
Right. And then, the following summer, you have that experience. I'm with my wife and daughter, and we are hiking in the Swiss Alps. And we have no internet service. It's beautiful. And then when we finally got to internet service, and my phone is going crazy, and people were talking about USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten. I'm like, well, excuse me? But that's what Jim Phillips walked into. None of it his doing.
This is probably going to be the weirdest coaching cycle of all time. And I think it will be interesting to sort of see where the ACC fits against the Big Ten and the SEC. I think we know where the revenues are, but how do you think this coaching carousel will impact the league? Whether that's somebody like Brent Key moving up, maybe somebody like James Franklin moving in. What do you think the league is going to look like on, let's say, January 15th or January 31st when all the music is stopped?
Pete, it's a fascinating question to ponder. Obviously, Virginia Tech and Stanford are already on the market. You could certainly see a world in which Dave Dorn and NC State have maybe even an amicable divorce. I mean, 13 years is a long time, and I think both parties understand that, and that maybe a fresh voice in Raleigh would work better. You mentioned Brent Key as a possibility at some of these marquee jobs. You hear Manny Diaz mentioned at some places. Jeff Brom could be a fit. Now, Jeff Brom is as bad as Louisville can get. Native, alum, former quarterback. But you mentioned the money, and not only just for coaches' salaries, but for staff and for player acquisition, and similarly with Brent Key, a Georgia Tech graduate and former O lineman there. it would be gutting, I think, for the ACC to lose those two, because Georgia Tech and Louisville seem to be, on the brink of returning to prominence. And heck, Georgia Tech appears to be there already. So, but schools like Virginia Tech, they need to get this hire right. You never know what the landscape's going to look like in the next 4 to 5 years. You don't want to be left out if there is some kind of Super League or more conference realignment. And Virginia Tech specifically has committed $229 million in additional athletics funding over the next 4 years. Does that help lure a quality candidate to Blacksburg? I don't think it can hurt, but there's political dysfunction there. We haven't even mentioned Florida State.
Speaking of dysfunction.
Yes. Well, Pete, what is it about those schools and state capitals? Tallahassee, Baton Rouge. Sure, let's have the meeting at the governor's mansion to figure out if we're going to fire Brian Kelly. And would anyone be surprised if such a meeting ever transpired in Tallahassee? Hell no, we wouldn't. So, does Mike Norvell coach Florida State next season? He better not lose to Wake Forest, or he might not be coaching them in a couple of weeks.
I would say Jake Dickert, I think, could be on the move. I mean, he's done as good a job as any first-year coach in the country. And then I was going to ask, I mean, you're the commissioner. New York Post had a headline and a picture. Jordan Hudson chatting up with ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips. Have you had the honor of meeting her yet? And what is the future of North Carolina under that regime?
I have not had the honor, Matt, but I will tell you, I was literally at his introductory press conference, maybe 20 feet from where she was sitting, and it was the whole thing was just so bizarre, and that was before any of the 60 Minutes fiasco, and is she or is she not banned from the building? And then during the open week, they're off on vacation when they're getting their teeth kicked in on the field. Just, I was there Saturday, and against Virginia, and they played better. I mean, they still stink, but they
should have won that, and they should have beat Cal. I mean,
they absolutely should have, and I'm not sure what that says about the 16th ranked Cavaliers of UVA, that they almost lost on the road to Carolina. But that's not going to end well. When it ends is the question.
Yeah, I wanted to put you on the spot. When Notre Dame goes to Chapel Hill next year, is Bill Belichick still the coach?
I talked to a trusted friend at Carolina on Saturday in the press box, and his sense was, yes, they've got to give it one more year. He knows Carolina better than I, but are we really going to give not only Belichick, but Lombardi, as badly as they mangled the portal this go around? Do we really think they're going to hit it right this upcoming cycle? Yeah, you're rolling your eyes and shaking your head, and I would agree with that body language.
There are a lot of open jobs. There are about to be some more open jobs, definitely more big jobs than there are big names. But two big names that are available right now, James Franklin and Brian Kelly.
Right.
Franklin in particular, since he's been on the block on the market for a couple of weeks now, Virginia Tech seems like one that on the surface could fit him. Perhaps Brian Kelly. I don't know what Brian's intentions are, but James has made it clear he wants to coach next year. Do you see either of those two guys as a fit at Virginia Tech or at any ACC schools that could potentially come open? I mean, Florida State, I think, could be good for James Franklin as well. Kelly, I'm less certain about.
Yeah, Matt, I made the point to someone who asked me about James Franklin and Virginia Tech. James Franklin won more New Year's Six bowls at Penn State than Virginia Tech has in its program's history. So if the Hokies aren't at least kicking the tires on James Franklin, I think it's malpractice. Now, if you get some kind of nibble from James Franklin, then you have to determine, A, does he want the job? And B, does he want it for the right reasons? Is he just looking for a landing spot? Has he thought about it? Does he have a plan specific for Virginia Tech as to how he would run the program, what kind of staff he would bring, what kind of approach to athlete compensation, and those things? People who just write, oh, X school needs to hire Coach Y. It just tickles me because I just feel like the one-on-one interaction of a job interview, not like we're doing now virtually. You need to sit in a room with a coaching candidate and look him in the eye and read his body language and try to figure out where his head is at and whether he has a plan specific to your program as to how he wants to run it. I think James Franklin is going to have options. You guys know Brian Kelly far better than I. He's 64 years old, but he's probably looking at Signetti and going, damn, he's the same age as I am and he's killing it. Why can't I do that? So maybe he wants back in.
Hard for me to see that. But this is my wrap up on this for me. As we are on sort of the eve of basketball season, do you think the ACC is going to get sort of its mojo back with hoops? We've seen the SEC make major strides over the last 4 or 5 years. And I've been doing this long enough that I remember like some of these ACC tournaments where, it was just like incredible basketball. Like the top 8 teams were all Final Four contenders, and that feels like a long time ago. Like, is there a future for ACC hoops that looks like it's past it all?
Pete, I think the influx of new coaches will help. Specifically, Will Wade at NC State and Ryan Odom at Virginia. Those are proven coaches at various levels, and they have already shown a willingness. Their schools have invested in their rosters, and they have embraced the new world. Well, Will Wade embraced the new world before it was the new world.
He was a pioneer.
Yeah.
That's the more generous way to look at Will Wade.
And the beauty of Will Wade, Pete, is he owns it. And he doesn't shy away from it in the least. But he's got the Big 12 Player of the Year on his roster at NC State. From last season, NC State's going to be better, and Virginia's going to be better than it was. But does the ACC rise to the level of an SEC right away? No. Let's remember the ACC was lucky to get a 4th team in the tournament last year. In 2019, the ACC had 3 of the 4 number 1 seeds in the tournament. I mean, that decline in such a short period of time is jarring. And you talk to coaches around the league and even outside the league, and they will tell you it was arrogance. It was institutional arrogance. They thought we are the ACC. Our basketball heritage is enough to draw the best players. Well, guess what? It isn't. You need to come with the goods. And they weren't investing. And now they're behind, but they're starting to get in the game. And I think it will take take a few seasons, but certainly they should be better this year and on the uptick.
Yeah, I go back to last year, and we'll get you out here on this. Nebraska had a higher Ken Pom finish than Wake. Nebraska did not make the Big Ten tournament. Wake had a double bye in the ACC tournament. And that to me was just jarring to see on paper. You mentioned arrogance. How much of it is the football emphasis because it's all about revenue these days versus, by the way, we just lost Coach K. We lost Boeheim. We lost Williams. We lost Patino. We lost these giants of the game. Leonard Hamilton just retired. How much is it? Jim Larinaga. Yeah. I mean, how much is losing those guys as well? And I guess arrogance would go hand in hand with this, but just not being able to replace them or not really having a plan to replace them. Because outside of Shire at Duke, it looks kind of shaky for some of those succession plans.
It does, right? Red Autry at Syracuse, he's facing some pressure. Hubert Davis is fabulous. Debut season notwithstanding, the folks in Carolina are anxious about Tar Heels basketball. But Matt, everything you described, I think it was a perfect storm. All those coaches at some point were going to retire. And it all happened in a fairly short period of time. It happened to coincide with the New World Order. And yes, football. And the next thing you know, you are way behind. And the SEC is landing 14 teams in the bracket, and you have 4. That's a problem. And a problem that was exacerbated when the ACC went 2-14 in the SEC ACC Challenge last year. 2-14.
And by the way, how'd Carolina get in? Who was the head of the committee?
Are you connecting some dots? Are you suggesting
they spent all their money on Belichick? My bad.
That there was a gold watch involved in the form of a tournament? It wouldn't be the first time that's happened.
Awesome.
All right. On that note, David, thanks for making some time to join us on The Independent, talk a little bit about ACC past, present, and future, and spin it forward to hoops a little bit. I think, an interesting year for Micah Shrewsbury up here in South Bend, too. It's,
yes, it
as
is.
Matt noted, like these succession plans, even though he did not mention Mike Bray among the legends of the league.
My bad.
Notre Dame has got to make a move, too, so we appreciate you coming on and talk about all that here on The Independent.
Thanks for having me, guys. My pleasure.
Thanks to David Teal, as always, for joining us. Apologies for the Jordan Hudson question. He's way too young for her. I should not have brought that up. But otherwise, I thought it was a pretty good interview.
Yes. Speaking of coaches with Northeast roots who are having a crisis of sorts. Anyway.
Bob Diaco?
Yeah, that's what I
He's on that staff. You got your Carolina blue on today, Pete.
Yeah. Questions?
Well, there are a lot of questions. You can imagine what a lot of them relate to. I will give Chris Avila the benefit of the doubt of the first question here. Happy Wednesday. Go Irish. Geaux.
Yes.
Ha ha ha. I see what he did there. Jay Carr is back. He'd like to apologize for missing last week's episode, but it was on Thursday, not the regular scheduled Wednesday time slot, so it's not his fault. We're glad to have you back, Jay Carr. So there was a lot on here, mostly about
Also, is that even an apology, Jay Carr?
Yeah, it's like a Brian Kelly. I apologize to those who were offended. But I did what I had to do. Okay. The EV hero alert. I'm going to be attending this game. Follow-up alert. I've been to 5 Notre Dame games in my life, and they've lost every single one. Maybe place an insurance bet on BC Moneyline because I am cursed.
Oh, yeah.
That Moneyline is plus 1,600, which I still don't think is high enough. For
Yeah.
those who are interested. Is gambling legal in Boston? I feel like I should know this. DraftKings is based out of Boston, but I don't know.
I don't know. You might have to place your bets before you hop on a plane.
I think it is legal there now. I could be wrong. There were Jay Carr again. What does a brother have to do to have Pete check his Twitter DMs? I sent him something like a month ago, never got a response. I hate to be big time by Pete. Dude, just post it right here for all to see.
Yeah. Jay Carr, I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't. Or you could follow up with that DM again.
Maybe this was it. Jay Carr again. BK to Wisconsin, hires Tommy as OC. We play Wisconsin next year at Lambeau. The storylines are almost poetic. No.
Yeah.
Luke Fickell could not make it work as far as like Wisconsin really loves their own. As far as being it's the only FBS school in the state, and you got to really make good with the high school coaches there. And Luke Fickell is a likable guy, in my opinion, but has not made many friends in that state. And I just think to go out of state and to go as someone as big of a personality and as abrasive as Brian Kelly often can be, I don't see that happening. Could be wrong. I could see Dave Aranda going to Wisconsin when he's likely out of a job at Baylor. One thing on Wisconsin, I want to mention, shout out to Zora Stevenson, the Notre Dame sideline reporter for NBC. I was in Wisconsin last night, took my daughter to the Knicks-Bucks game. It was a great night, minus the result. But
I was watching Giannis's gather step and not travel.
Yeah, right. What's up with that? Break. That's all right. When he's in a Nick uniform in a year, I'll look the other way and let him get away with that. But Zora and Mike Tirico, another friend of the pod in Notre Dame, were on the broadcast for NBC, and Zora obviously used to be the Bucks sideline reporter. So they brought her out during one of the timeouts to midcourt, got a standing ovation, and they brought out, I forget the name. It was a basketball player, Marquette, women's basketball player. And they showed highlights of Zora playing, I believe, at Elon in college. And they said, we got a competition, 60 seconds. Each of you go to one basket. You have to hit 6 threes. And I'm thinking 6 threes in 1 minute. And in Zora's case, she's in her sideline reporting gear. Like, this feels like not doable. And boy, is she a baller. Like, corner threes, make after make after make. She won the competition and then just went right back to doing her job. Like, that was damn impressive. Like, good for her. Okay, like Archer 00 Arrow. I completely understand this one. I doubt it'll happen, but I'd love if we spent minimal time talking about BK. I do think there is a small but powerful segment that feels that way. There are a couple of people on here who said, why didn't we do a live show for it? I do want to like not overdo it, but like 95% of the questions here are about it. So we do got to do it. Like at least now.
This is and that's why I wrote the column. Like it wraps everything up.
Yeah.
For Notre Dame. Like, I think that Brian Kelly gave Notre Dame 3 great gifts. One, his 12 years of work here, sort of professionalizing the program and getting it to a spot where it could take a chance on somebody like Marcus Freeman. 2, leaving so Notre Dame could hire Marcus Freeman, because Marcus Freeman wasn't going to be, in my opinion, Marcus Freeman was not going to be at Notre Dame.
You had Duke in there, but yeah, I mean, he had an interview with Duke that week. He would. I always say like, oh, it's a risky hire to hire Freeman. I think it was a riskier hire to not hire him because he would have gone somewhere else.
And the third great gift was Sunday, getting fired, because this cloud sort of in the horizon where like, I don't think we're going to get rain, but now it's gone. Like that cloud is gone. You do like you know the Mad Men gif about Don Draper in the elevator?
Yeah.
Like Notre Dame is Don Draper now. I don't think about you at all. That's
not
where
great.
We are.
Not great, Bob, is the only Mad Men elevator discussion.
Yeah,
I don't know how many times I tweeted that
Mad Men gif
when Bob Diaco left Notre Dame, but I tweeted it a lot.
Yeah.
Chris Avila, is anyone else thinking Pitt is a trap game with how they've played since their quarterback change? Says Navy for that matter. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a trap game if you keep talking about it. Look, I said I don't think they're going to lose to BC, Syracuse, or Stanford. Now, we're talking about a program that's a year removed from losing to Northern Illinois, so I don't think you can overlook anyone. I do think, like, all right, let me put it this way, Pete. If Notre Dame does not run the table, independent of like any future injuries, why would that be? In the regular season, obviously, I'm talking about here.
It's like, would they lose Navy or lose Pitt?
Right.
I think Pitt.
But like, why? Like, what? Give me the.
Carr plays like he did against USC. They haven't had like a terrible turnover game, like fluky turnovers, right? I mean, Carr's thrown a couple, but I guess Price had that fumble. That was against NC State. Nobody cared. I think like a all systems disaster type game. Like if that happened against BC, Stanford, or Syracuse, it really wouldn't matter. Like Notre Dame would still win by 14 points. If it happened at Pitt, like we've all covered or watched Notre Dame Pitt games enough where like if you're off against Pitt, man, that can get annoying. Sometimes you can lose, like 2013, like you get a bad targeting penalty. Was it 2018 where
they're on the other end of one, right?
Yeah, I mean,
That's fair.
2012 they should have lost.
Yeah, no, 18 though. That's when they made the quarterback switch right after that game. I think is that
could have been, but like that game was really weird and annoying. It could be confusing that with 2020. I just think like Notre Dame's history with Pitt is littered with like, God, I can't stand this game. And I could see, that's the game. Like obviously there's a bunch of Navy games like that too. I think they sort of figured out how to beat Navy. And I've said this before, and Tim Murray referenced it last week. Like when Notre Dame's really good on offense, it really doesn't matter how good Navy is on offense. Like you're just going to go up and down the field all game. And I think that would probably be the case against Navy.
Probably. Navy is good. They are more dynamic offensively than they've been in recent years, ever. I can't. So it would obviously be Navy or Pitt. I lean more Pitt than Navy for the reasons you just mentioned as far as who they could lose to. I will say Navy, like, not that they were going to beat Notre Dame last year, but I mean, I'm sure we talked about this on the pod, but like 7 turnovers, 5 of which were literally like, Notre Dame, here's the ball. Like,
I think Notre Dame finished that game with 6 fumble recoveries, but only 1 forced fumble.
Right. Like it just was a sloppy game. And I don't think you've got a new coordinator, so he's not going to be brainwashed by that. But I don't think the personnel can like be overconfident going into that game either. I went back, I tweeted this. Kelly got fired Sunday. It was the first time he'd ever gotten fired, which is very, very rare for anyone in college coaching. But I had a quote in there from then Rutgers head coach Chris Ash. I remember talking to him at Big Ten Media Day about this. And he said there are two coaches in this world, those who have been fired and those who will be fired. I was like, yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
Glad I didn't regurgitate that one after the A&M game. But it was like, yeah, Chris Ash was pretty good at that. I will say Pitt, ever since they went to Mason Heinschel at quarterback, 65% completion percentage, 1,243 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Pitt's 4-0. They're averaging better than 41 points per game. Notre Dame's still not great at defending explosives.
A lot better, though.
Are they? I mean,
yeah.
USC had any threat of a run game, or it didn't rain. I'm not saying they lose, but it's a much higher scoring game.
I'm thinking like explosive run plays. Like I don't think the pass defense has gotten a lot better.
That's what I'm worried about.
I mean, I take it back. It has gotten a lot better because they were getting roasted by Purdue for a little bit. So that's not going to happen anymore. And Pitt doesn't have like Larry Fitzgerald's not walking through that door. Jonathan Baldwin, for those who are a little bit more in tune with Notre Dame Pitt's history, like not walking through that door. So I think that it should be okay. Notre Dame should be able to make a freshman quarterback look like a freshman quarterback. That's that. It just like as long as you don't have some fluky turnovers, your offense doesn't like spit the bit a little bit. I think you should be okay.
We'll see. I mean, I think they'll win, but Pitt is the king of like, we'll almost beat Notre Dame and then lose to Boston College or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
and they've been like, they've been good. I mean, again, the competition is what it is, but like they've been good ever since they made that quarterback switch. I will say, like, big picture, independent of opponent. I do think the difference between this year's team and last year's team, and a difference as far as like questions I have. You knew how talented last year's team was because of what they did in week 1 and because of how veteran it was and how proven everyone on that roster was, right down to the quarterback. And you knew after that NIU game, I do think that entire program was scared shitless and like was not going to mess it up, right? Like, it almost had like a don't mess it up. I mean, like
you would think they would have played much tighter than they actually played.
Right. But like Freeman, like even beyond last season, but like never miss a chance to like be like, what about NIU, publicly or privately? Yeah. And I think they had the right makeup in that locker room, leadership wise, to know that they were never too good for anyone and that they had to at least bring their A-game mentality every single game, even when they're playing Army and Navy, or else they know what can happen. I'm not saying this team doesn't have it, but they lost to 2 really good teams. And I do think, at least among the fan base and like those of us who followed, there's a collective, all right, they beat USC, they're going to the playoff. And like, you can't let any of that seep into the goog all season long.
I would be interested probably after this week to ask Freeman about that. Like you brought, well, maybe I'll ask him tomorrow. You brought up NIU so much. Like, are you bringing up Miami and A&M at a similar frequency or not? Because he's referenced bringing it up. Like, he's like, don't forget the pain, I think is the way he puts it. But like, he has referenced it since. But man, NIU was to the point where, like, we all have been in press conferences where like we're asking about, hey, something crappy happened a month ago. Like, let's keep talking about it. And the coach is like, oh, God, would you stop bringing that up? We're trying to move on.
Florida. All right.
Yeah. Marcus Freeman was the opposite. He keeps bringing up NIU, and we're like, God, would you stop talking about that? But yeah, he's wired a little bit differently than the rest of us.
I will say 110th red zone offense, 120 something in fourth down conversions. I don't think that bites them in the regular season. It absolutely will bite them.
Oh, yeah.
In the playoff if they don't get better there. Because when teams are relatively equal, you got to win on the margins. Archer 00 Arrow, I asked about Jordan. I believe you mean Jaden. Great house a few weeks ago and was politely told to sit down. Were you more worried now that he's still questionable after bye week?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't have anything that is like definitively like he asked for a meeting to redshirt. Or like, I'm not saying that. But that's a long questionable, man. It's just a really long questionable.
I agree. I don't have anything though to share beyond like as far as what's going on there. Stephen Blackiston, not saying anything, but Saturday is All Saints Day. Well, who's it benefit then?
I don't know. Is there? Father Nate Wills probably. I'll have to text him and see who this week's saint is for if there's it's a Halloween saint or I don't know. Can you have a Frank? Is there a Saint Frank for Frank Leahy? I don't know. I don't know where.
St. Francis.
Yeah.
Right?
Father Wills will go with that one.
Pete getting some love here. Jay Carr. Damn, Pete, what an intro to that ad. I would say that was a grand slam. Archer 000. Look at that silky segue by Sampson. Fun fact, you spelled segue wrong. It's Segue, not WAY. And same thing with Sarah McGuire. Spelled segue wrong as well, but it's all right. You're Notre Dame people. You're not supposed to be smart.
I mean, that version of segue is the thing you see at the mall.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
We've seen retired coaches with their buyout money running around with those pretty soon. Some might say he knocked it out of the park, says Superman TD. Jesus, who also says Brian won't coach again. He's got to run for Senate or some crap. Hold on. This is a good one. Stephen Blackiston. You think BK will go full White Goodman from dodgeball and just be eating home run and pizzas? Hey, more money for us. He's got the buyout money.
Oh, man.
A lot of pizza questions in here. A lot of golf questions in here as well. I'm going to try.
We really should have a contest in favor for home run and pizza to see like who can send us the weirdest place you're eating a home run and pizza. Like
that could get
get bad.
That could get bad.
Not sure home run and pizza would endorse such a promotion.
Jay Carr. I would be best friends with Scott Woodward if he gave me $90 million guaranteed. I'd cut his grass for that deal. You know, it's funny. I felt that. I mean, yes, I agree. I felt that way with Marcus Freeman, Jack Swarbrick. It's like, you mean I'm 35 and I don't really need an interview to be the head coach of Notre Dame? Cool. I'm in. Like, what do you want?
Yeah.
I think you've sort of, he was the only one who interviewed. Let me correct it. And it was, don't screw this up. It's yours.
Yeah. I think that with Marcus, you see like that gratitude comes out a lot.
Yes.
And he's like, hey, you took a chance on me. I really appreciate it. I'm never going to forget that. I mean, even you even talked about gratitude this week when I asked him about BK being fired. It's just like,
he seemed very solemn, by the way. Like,
what's that?
He seemed very solemn in that answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he thought about how I'm going to answer this question. But it came off genuine. It's like, look, I'm really thankful that I'm in this job, which is just not something you hear enough from college football head coaches, frankly.
No, and he said, like, I'm not talking about coaches when I say this. I think we all need to do that in life, which I also thought was pretty poignant. Also, like, yeah, Brian, I don't think Brian looked at Scott Woodward as like, thank you so much. I think it was, you couldn't even get Lincoln Riley. You are SOL, which they were. I mean, we all remember that weekend, right? The famous, I'm not going to be the next head coach at LSU, Lincoln Riley press conference. And the next day he goes to USC. And both at the time had the same agent, Trace Armstrong, who was playing everyone against everyone. And LSU had nowhere to turn. nowhere to turn. And like on paper, yeah, we stole Notre Dame's winningest all-time coach. That's great. Probably.
Yeah, I think coming up on the 4-year anniversary of that, I should do an oral history of like my family's experience of it. My kids are still bitter about it.
Well, remember we were told this story, right? And I don't know if we've shared this here. I'm sure we have. This would have been the Sunday link because Brian took LSU on Monday after the season.
Mhm.
Lincoln took USC on Sunday. And so we were told it after the fact. I think you were told. I think the same person called both of us. But Brian stayed in California like he usually would do at the end of the year. He was at, I want to say, San Francisco Bay Golf Club on Sunday with some donors.
Yep. I mean, it was maybe Olympic Club. I don't know. Regardless, it was a really nice golf course.
And his brother was there. His brother handles a lot of his actual business for him. And I guess there are a bunch of people are there as the news breaks that Lincoln Riley takes USC. And Paul Kelly, Brian's brother, starts thinking out loud to the effect of, why would Lincoln take USC? They got this, they got that, they got to get this in order. The president, the AD, and they're all all these Notre Dame donors are looking at each other like, why the hell does Brian Kelly's brother know so much about this USC job? This is fishy. Did he know that about LSU? I don't know.
Yeah, that was a fun time texting Notre Dame coaches and be like, "Oh, what's going on?" And they're like, "Shit, I don't know, man." Like,
you tell us.
Yeah.
Jay Grizz, I remember hearing the story about how Kelly made LaFleur and Robert Salas shovel snow off his driveway back in the day when they coached for Kelly and his staffs at Central Michigan. I will say, in Kelly's defense, when that story came out, I was at the Goog, and everyone there strongly pushed back at it. And Matt LaFleur, who was coach of the Packers at the time, like clearly had bigger fish to fry, called up the Goog directly. And I was like, that was completely misinterpreted. That is not at all how I intended for it to come off. So I don't know, but I do know Matt LaFleur was not happy with that characterization of it, nor were people at Notre Dame. It's getting more and more and more. All right, here. Tristan Tahara. I hope ND AD offers Freeman more money or an extension here soon. He's got to get an extension. I think if you're a competent coach, you got an extension at this market. I mean, it's just
and more money.
Business. No, I mean, I would go for the money more than I would the years, because I think we've all seen the trap that people fall into with years that schools do. But yeah, here that Superman TD Jesus again. Wasn't Freeman just extended this past offseason? If anything, a raise is in order for sure. But if he has the length of the deal, two-parter, he should be good for now.
I mean, was Frank Signetti good for now?
Kurt, you mean?
Kurt, yeah. Frank Signetti. I don't know.
And he was the OC at Pitt and BC last.
Okay, that's why. I'm just that deep in the weeds with Panthers football.
Kurt just signed for 11, right? Per year?
Yeah. So I don't think the term makes a difference at all for Freeman. Like he's ultimately going to do what he wants to do. But the annual pay does.
Yeah.
Like the market value for Marcus Freeman is now underpaid.
Yeah.
Assuming they win the last 5 games.
Who's paid more than him, though? I mean, if you look at the list, there aren't too many in the double digits, are there?
No. I mean, we've got Dabo, Kirby, Signetti. I guess Franklin was, but
Franklin was not. He was only 8.
No? Oh, okay.
I'm going to pull up the USA database.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't. I hear you. There are not a lot.
I'm not saying he's like doesn't deserve a raise, because I think he does,
just like the market. Like today's price was not yesterday's price.
No, as what the wire says. Okay, Bill Belichick 10.1. Brian Kelly was 10.1. Caitlin DeBoer 10.2. Dan Lanning 10.4. Sark 10.8. Dabo 11.4. Lincoln 11.5. Day 12.5. Kirby 13.2. And then Signetti would go in there as well now at 11. So yeah, I mean, there are certainly coaches on here. I think Marcus Freeman deserves more than
$15 million a year. But like, if you're Notre Dame, like, do you want to throw an extra $1 million at him? Sure. Marcus may be like, could we throw that in a roundabout way towards NIL? Like, I think that I think Marcus is quite aware that he has more money than he will ever know really what to do with. So I don't think it's like a pride thing. But
I don't know. You got 6 kids, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. That's a lot of youth sports fees. So I don't know. I think that he will get a raise. I also think he probably would prefer that if he was like, let's negotiate NIL versus my own salary. I think that NIL would probably win out in terms of his priorities.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see that a lot now, especially with schools. Casey McC, I'll call you. Casey MCC, first time on here. How often is this podcast? Pete, loved your article about Kelly and ND exhaling. Welcome to the independent family. Can we tell you about Home Run and Pizza or odd merch at obviousshirts.com or Roback every Wednesday at noon Eastern time in season and live post game on Saturday, usually Saturday nights. Thank you for your new support of the pod, Casey McC. Superman TD Jesus. I think you summed this one up pretty well. Freeman may have iffy losses, but in my opinion, his leadership and ability to gain buy-in is top 2 to 3 in the country. I would agree. I'd put him and Dan Lanning in this very similar category with that, as far as like their ability to be where their feet are and motivate whoever is right in front of them.
He does a great job.
Very, very impressive. Both hired the same year as DCs. Both, I believe, are 39 years old. Yeah, I would argue they have maybe the two, along with Signetti now, 2 highest approval ratings of any coaches with their fan bases. Because Dabo doesn't, and Kirby still can't beat Alabama. And Ryan Day still hasn't beaten Michigan in 4 years. Let's see, there are a couple more here. Rajan, we missed you. Teal will be banned from the UNC press box if he keeps it up. Someone in here asked about potential sleeper jobs opening. Sarah McGuire now says, how long will Sanders stay at Colorado? He's below 50% winning percentage. Yeah, I think that's one to keep an eye on that no one's talking about. And could be a good job in the Big 12. I just think everything is wide open there. A lot of basketball stuff in here. Okay, here, Superman TDGS. You can bet Massachusetts, but not bet on any major Massachusetts teams during the regular season. It's kind of like Illinois with college teams, I guess, except if you can't bet like Celtics and Bruins there, that makes less sense. Rajan, look at BK like a longtime girlfriend who broke up with you and you realize soon after you don't miss her. So I really don't care that he got fired. Yeah, I think that's probably a sentiment that a lot of people share with. Steve Blackstone, you've been on a roll today, Stephen, with some of your comments. Pam and Under Armour stuff that us regular folk can't buy.
Yeah, I think that falls into he's got more than enough stuff that he needs to do with.
Andre King, hello to handsome Mr. Sampson, to the equally handsome gentleman, Mr. Matt. Andre, thank you for the kind words and
Thanks,
for your
Andre.
support of the pod of this. Okay, Nick Buchholz, Matt, can you post actual football questions? My God, man, do you have football questions, Nick? Stop just picking ones you find comical, Matt. This is boring. Please ask me a football question, Nick.
Oh God, yeah. This was just I've been going through Boston College's defensive line,
looking for grad
transfers to
transfers.
see who has the extra year of eligibility, who might be good. I found one person, so we'll see.
Jay Grizz, UA is less expensive than Roback, though. With all due respect, it is. And hey, we got bills to pay as well.
Yeah.
So, unless Nick Buchholz has a football question,
Come on, Nick.
I think we're done for the day.
Yeah,
a lot of prediction. Kelly. Oh yeah. Of course, there's a game to be played that Notre Dame should win. I do. I may regret saying this, but 20.5 seems low for this game.
I agree.
It just
wait, isn't it 28.5?
Yeah, 28.5.
Okay.
28.5. It seems low, in my opinion. I think like how is it less than 28.5 is my question.
Yeah.
Unless they give up a couple big plays. Like Notre Dame's gonna score. They're gonna score a lot. The weather's not gonna be like raining again. Like they're not gonna get slowed down by that. They're not gonna get slowed down by BC's defense. I feel like we both say 41 or 42 every game for Notre Dame, so I'll say 45. I'll say 45-10 Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Was that what you were going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say 45-10 as well. I mean, it's like Boston College is
We're both
allowing
56.5 is the over under, so we're both under.
Yeah, Boston College is
Barely.
allowing 6.07 yards per play.
Oh god! And they
that
didn't
is
play anybody.
That's
Like-
110th nationally. Notre Dame still plays Syracuse, which is 109th, and Stanford, which is 112th. The only teams worse than that is on the schedule is Arkansas, which is 125th. We all know how that went. So Syracuse, Stanford, or Boston College, I think, are all the same game, and Notre Dame will win all of them by like at minimum 30 points.
I agree. I think BC might be worse than those other two teams, and like Syracuse. All due respect to Steve Angeli, I'm surprised they dropped off this much when he went down.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, they were not going to have him until he decided to transfer at the end of the spring. So we'll see. Yeah, 45-10. That's a cover and an under. I wouldn't go running to place your money on everything Pete and I just said with this game, given the uncertainties around Boston College. But it should be a relatively light Halloween hangover / All Saints Day for Notre Dame fans. And yeah, the Holy War, the Frank Leahy Memorial Bowl. Ivan Mizell, shout out, read his book on Frank Leahy, friend of the pod. I think it should be a less eventful week than the bye week, which ended up being very eventful based on our questions and what happened down in Baton Rouge. But
yeah, and by the time, so we'll be back Saturday after the game for our post-game show for our new listener who asked a question. And then we'll be back next Wednesday, which we will have, drum roll please, college football playoff rankings to talk about.
yeah,
We're already here with that dog and pony show.
I thought you were teasing our next guest, who may or may not be calling the game this weekend for Notre Dame as well. The cooler of the VSiN friends we have.
Yeah. Yes. So until Saturday, he's Matt. I'm Pete. Thanks for being with us on this latest episode of The Independent.